My question for you was, I believe in high school you had a racial discrimination lawsuit, and you received $50,000 from your school as a result of this. And you've recently claimed that, like, racism isn't, like, such a big deal. So are you interested in perhaps giving that money back, or, like, what's the plan there?
So you're not educated about my life, and I'm very happy to educate you. And by the way, the best way to get educated about my life is to purchase my book, where I talked about this in chapter 2.
Hello all, Jace here. We're going to go through a few clips of the woman, the myth, the legend, Candace Owens, obliterating some leftist ideas. So let's get straight into it.
Gosh, I literally love this outfit because, no, it's okay. I was just saying I love your outfit because literally my son right now loves Peter Pan, and I just bought him the hook. So this is incredible. I love that. Go ahead.
All right, so can you mateys hear me?
Pardon?
Can you mateys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, my question for you was, I believe in high school you had a racial discrimination lawsuit, and you received $50,000 from your school as a result of this. And you've recently claimed that, like, racism isn't, like, such a big deal. So are you interested in perhaps giving that money back, or, like, what's the plan there?
So you're not educated about my life, and I'm very happy to educate you. And by the way, the best way to get educated about my life is to purchase my book, where I talked about this in chapter 2. I do just want to tell you that, because it's remarkable to me that I wrote about this extensively in my book, and people always think this is a gotcha. They're like, gotcha, this happened to you in high school. Yeah, it's actually the reason I am conservative is because of this thing that happened to me in high school, which was a race incident that involved a kid that was my best friend, and he... You know, I got a boyfriend, that's the truth, and stopped hanging out with all my friends, as high school girls do. Totally innocent, normal situation. And one night, he obviously had too much to drink and got 3 people who I had never heard of or met to leave really horrific racist messages. Now, I've never once said that racism doesn't exist. That's something that was created by the root, and people keep saying I've said it. Actually, I say the exact opposite. Racism will always exist as long as human beings exist, as human beings are ignorant, right? And that's when you meet somebody that's actually racist, they're just ignorant. It's the people that I'm like, I could never even be offended by you being a racist because I'm going to be so far ahead of you in life. It's ridiculous, right? But going back to the story, this kid used to be my friend. He was upset that I stopped hanging out with him, and unfortunately, one of the people that left these messages happened to be the governor of Connecticut's son. So this turned overnight into a political, sensational story. It's my first introduction to the media, my first introduction to the NAACP, who showed up at the front of my school, had never talked to me, but tried to raise money off of real hurt that I was going through. Nobody tried to sit down and actually resolve the situation. Was the kid a racist? Well, obviously not, because we were best friends for years, right? Was he hurt? Yes. Did he say racist things? Yes. That situation, and by the way, the money refund that you're talking about was because while this was a huge news cameras outside event, homeschooled. I had to stay home and homeschool and get private tutoring while this was going on until the FBI could trace these phone calls. So if you're stepping to the plate to tell me that that's not right, that, you know, you got reimbursed for being out of school, you're making not a very valid point, I don't think. But the moral of what my lesson was that people are raising money. What I learned from it was people are literally raising money off of racism. The NAACP never wants racism to go away. Okay? They want, because they can fund on finding it everywhere, and they didn't care about the fact that I was a young teenager. I learned a lesson about the media. It's all about selling headlines and selling your story and your point of view, and nobody looked at me or those boys, for matter. One of them was 12 and was being called a racist, and it impacted the rest of that kid's life. Like, I mean, these kids were suicidal, on drugs, plenty of arrests after it, because that's how traumatic it was to have adults rush, and instead of adulting, labeling kids for the rest of their lives without trying to get to the root of the situation. So I appreciate the Captain Hook heroic attempt to catch me at my own game, but I am very proud of what I went through in high school, and I thank God for it, because it woke me up to a lot of the things that we're facing today in our society. And thank you so much for your question.
Okay, rule number 1. If you want to be taken seriously in any conversation about anything, don't dress like an idiot. Don't pretend to be a pirate. You're not a pirate. If you want to be taken seriously, present yourself in a way where people will take you seriously. Second, if you're going to throw your hat in the ring and be a part of a conversation like this, do the homework. Know what you're talking about. Do some research. Don't read a Twitter post and then go up there and try to take on Candace Owens. She will destroy you. Do your homework. Third, if you think at this point in time the NAACP is there for the advancement of colored people, which is what the ACP stands for, you're insane. They are there for the same reason most big organizations are still in existence, to remain viable and to make money. And that's it.
Hi.
Hi. I had an honest question for you because I feel like your grandfather's story is very inspiring. But you say that people complain so much. But if people didn't complain in those days and fight for people's rights and fight for feminism, which is just equality for women, then you wouldn't be on the stage today and I wouldn't be here asking you this question. And so if people aren't complaining, as you say, and fighting for rights, then nothing would happen. So how can you reconcile these differences?
Yeah, so first I want to say I understand your sentiment, because when I was your age, I thought the same thing, that feminism is just about equality. One of the brilliant things that the left does is they repackage words. It's clearly not feminism anymore. It's designed to actually rip apart women and men, to make women paranoid about men all the time, and every industry is controlled by a man, and to make being on your own, I want to do all by myself, aspirational, right? It's about all my single ladies, who needs a man. So just because you're using the word feminism, it doesn't mean that it is feminism, right? And as best evidenced by the fact that they just keep using it when obviously we are on equal footing with men, and unless you can tell me what you're not allowed to do as a woman in society that men are allowed to do, right? That would be like a systemic problem that we would need to fix. And so also I want to just remind you that I said earlier that you don't know true history, and when you wake up to the evils of feminism, they were fixated on breaking up the family. They liked death, right? They were creating a cult of death and destruction everywhere, all across the world. And just to be clear, the earliest iteration of a feminist that you're talking about that you deem to be heroic would be Margaret Sanger. That's a first wave feminist, and she hated me, so I feel nothing towards those feminists. And when I look around and I see women who are now crying on TikTok, and they don't understand, they did everything they were supposed to do, and I actually empathize and sympathize with them, and then suddenly they're in the world and they're making $25,000 a year and they can't do bad all by themselves, single ladies, and actually their bodies start coming online and their biology starts coming online, and they actually want to get married and have children, and they're realizing that they've stepped into a design that they were promised was going to be, as you hear, it's just going to be great, it's all going to be amazing, and it actually isn't that amazing. I don't know why. What are we even fighting anymore? Men holding doors? That's the new feminist cause? Like, no, equality means don't hold the door. No, I like when men pay for my meals. Love when my husband pays for my meals when we're recording. I like having the door held for me. In a perfect world, our society was so much better when women were involved every single day with their children before we handed them over to the Department of Education. And so I do not see feminism as having accomplished anything in our society. I actually think it was a nightmare that is being repackaged in our textbooks. So I would implore you to just do a little more research and start with Emma Goldman.
Feminism stopped being about equal rights for the sexes a very long time ago, and she's 100% right. One of the quote unquote queens of feminism is Margaret Sanger, who was primarily motivated by her racism and removing the black population from America. If your foundation is built on that, I don't know how we can still uphold you as a positive influence on our society. But moreover, New Age feminism has absolutely nothing to do with equal rights. Equal rights has already been achieved. It is about trying to convince women, instead of we need to be on equal footing with men so that we can come together and be that much stronger. Now it's just, you don't need no man, and let's do away with men altogether. Feminism has absolutely nothing to do with equal rights. I wish they would just stop calling it feminism, because it's got nothing to do with it anymore. Now it's just about trying to convince women that they don't need men, which is abjectly false. Just like we need women. You don't hear any men speaking to that. We can do anything a woman can do. Let's just get rid of all these women in our society. They're pointless. Nobody says that because it's just objectively untrue. The reverse is true as well. Quit calling it feminism. Quit fighting for equal rights that you already gained decades ago. Just stop.
My question for you is, well, I wanted to say, my name is Khalif, and I agree with your comments about a lot of the struggles that Black Americans do face in the country is due to the breakdown of the Black family following the passing of the Civil Rights Act, and the promotion of welfare, specifically toward Black mothers and incentivizing them to not have their fathers in the home. I would say to you is, as a Black American yourself who has made a platform, despite the country and the actions in our past and what's currently going on, what would you say is, well, one, I would know, how do you feel like you were able to do so? But then also, what would be your recommendation to me, another Black American or any other one, to reverse the effects of the breakdown of the Black family?
Great question. So I think a couple of things that worked in my favor. I'm my granddaddy's girl, for better or worse. I mean, my granddad was stubborn as the day was long. I am stubborn. Like I just saying to her, like I've always been this way. Even when I was a liberal, even when I had the wrong ideas, I just demanded the right to be myself, right? I demanded the right to be myself and not be punished for being myself, right? Least of all, if I wasn't doing anything that was wrong. And that's kind of what's happened. And so the first thing that I would say is, if you want to get ahead as a Black American, stop allowing the media to allow you to see yourself as a Black American. Start seeing yourself as an American, right? Just an American, full stop. The second thing that I would say is that when you start doing that, the relationships that you are able to build, because part of them corroding everybody's mind is to make them perceive other people as the enemy. It destroys relationships, right? And the relationships that you are able to build, which is very much what I did in my life, just by refusing the narrative, it became a superpower. It really became a superpower. I was surrounded with friends that inspired me, people that wanted to work hard and didn't want to have any of the political correctness nonsense in the middle. Like, what can we build? How can we build? The world is at your fingertips. If you are a Black American breathing today, if you're an American breathing today, like I said, you are the most privileged that has ever lived on the face of the planet. That's the truth. And as soon as you remove the barriers that have been put up in your own minds, you'll be able to see it for the first time. Thank you so much.
First off, let me just say how incredibly grateful I am that we live in a time where we have strong, intelligent Black women like Candace to speak to our youth, especially there at those college campuses. They need someone speaking the way things really are to them, instead of these professors and these echo chambers that just keep regurgitating the same leftist talking points over and over again. This victim mindset, and it's not just with Black kids, it's with all young kids in America. This generation, the entire generation, has a victim mindset. There are 3 criteria for being economically successful in America. And this has never been disproven. It is a very simple equation. Graduate high school, get a full-time job, get married before you have children. That's it. If you don't do those 3 things, you have an overwhelming chance of being economically successful in America. There is nothing, there is no system in place, there is no policy currently keeping anyone in this country from graduating high school, getting a full-time job, and getting married before you have children. Nothing. You can do away with this victim mindset. I know things are hard right now. I know for young kids, with the economy the way it is, it's tough. But you have the power to do those 3 things. And if you do those 3 things, you will be economically successful. It's that simple. So get rid of the mindset that you're doomed to fail. You're not. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you. Please subscribe, leave me a like, throw a comment in there, and we'll see you for the next one.